want to talk to you about another insight I had around relationships that made all the difference when it came to clearing up conflict at work. So if you haven't checked out an earlier video called The Reality Bubble, that was one of my first insights. And this is another insight that was just as impactful, just as powerful, but comes to it in a slightly different way. One of the things that I started to notice around contentious relationships at work was that no matter where we started in terms of a conversation, we inevitably ended in a very similar place, like a very similar back and forth, very similar positions as previous dialogues and previous conversations. And so even though I would come to a conversation hoping for the best, ultimately it's almost like that person and I had gotten very familiar and comfortable doing a particular dance. And so we would just inevitably start doing that dance. No matter what dance we started dancing before, our steps just ultimately ended up in that same contentious, difficult place, inevitably, right? And what I started to notice was that the reason why that was so was that I was carrying all of the difficult conversations I had had with that person with me into every conversation thereafter. And so it was almost like I was carrying a bag of rocks of all of the difficult times I had with that person. And so irrespective of what that person might say, irrespective of what might come up in that particular conversation, because I was carrying this bag of rocks, all of the things, all of the typical things that person said, all of the things I thought they stood for, inevitably that's what I saw, irrespective of what they might come up with in that particular interaction. It was always filtered through the memories of the past, right? And so I was carrying a bag, a suitcase of all of the things, baggage, all of the baggage into this relationship. And so if I could, in that moment, come to that relationship clean, if I could just accept that all of the things that were in that suitcase are gone, right? This bag that I was carrying, and I know I'm using two metaphors, I should just stick with one. So let's stick with the bag of rocks. So if I could just let the bag of rocks down, if I could leave it behind, if I could come to that interaction clean, when I could see that what I was doing, all those things that happened in the past were in the past, they did not exist any longer, other than me carrying it forward, right? Doesn't exist any longer. Could only be brought into this relationship by me. And then it was that bag of rocks that was impacting, influencing that relationship that was happening here in the now, that was actually real, that was actually occurring, and that it wasn't impacting it in a way that was constructive or helpful, then it was much easier for me to allow that bag of rocks to sit by the side, to let it be and not to carry it forward. And so I ask you, what bag of rocks are you carrying into this relationship that you're perceiving as difficult, right? What are you carrying into this interaction that is impacting how you're showing up, how you're responding, what energy you're bringing into this interaction, the now and the here? And is it helpful, or is it just keeping you stuck in the same old dance?